Hello there. Got a new computer here. Had it for a while, but this is the first video I've been making on it. Looks pretty good. Um, so I haven't made a video for a while. I guess I could give you, just a quick health update. I got a endoscopy, colonoscopy, and I don't have cancer. They didn't find any cancer with that. I had some GERD, but I still think there might be something wrong with me. I've got a few things, but that's not what this video is about again. I just wanted to pass along that good news real quick. I wanted to make this video because I've been had, basically. I made a video maybe, I don't know, 10 years ago, something like that. Maybe longer. I don't know. I can't remember. It might have been more than 10 years ago. About the Hopi apocalypse prophecy. I forget what I called it. I think I might have just called it that. And turns out that was a bunch of hooey. um, you know, I read further into this. There was an author. I'll post the link underneath this video. There was an author that kind of looked into the legitimacy of that Hopi, great great purification. I think I called it. That's what they were calling it, and it's a bunch of new agey nonsense. Basically, some new age author. I think he based it off of a pamphlet that another new agey guy put out. That was a result of his conversation with some Hopi hitchhiker he picked up in the 1950s or something like that. Um, and I got taken in. I got taken in by it. These new agey people. I mean, they're just obnoxious. I'm sorry, they are obnoxious. I mean, they want to believe that there's more to life than what there is, and so they make up a lot of stories about how there's some great. How New Agers think. There's some great dimensional shift that's going to happen, or that people will become enlightened, or something like that. I don't think that's going to happen. But I was stupid enough to listen to one of their. This is something I didn't realize that it had gone back for a while. Apparently, in 1987, a bunch of New Agey people actually gathered at the Hopi Prophecy Rock, which was supposedly the place where this whole great purification prophecy came from, and the Hopi tribes in the area decried the entire celebration. Nothing happened, of course, and they were expecting some kind of enlightenment to occur at the rock, I guess, and a bunch of the tribes people said that they were, didn't want to have anything to do with it, and apparently the New Agey people were like trying to invoke aliens to come down or something like that. It's just pure ridiculousness. So I feel like kind of a dumbass because I made a whole video about how I thought the Hopi were, had some mystical connection to the future. I mean, I guess on some level, you want to believe that there is some mystical things going on in the world, and I guess that's where New Ageism comes from. But in the end, I think it's better to be reasonable. And yeah, on that same note, I wasn't planning on making this video about that, but so yeah, basically just to wrap up about the Hopi real quick. Apparently, they don't really have any. Most of their prophecies are developed after the fact. They create prophecies that are based on things that have already happened, and so apparently some of these Hopi tribes people ended up taking some of these New Agey prophecies and weaving that into their own mythology, believe it or not. Which I don't know how many of them did, but it's just kind of like I guess on some level you want to believe. Since I know that that we're on kind of a destructive path. I want to believe that people that lived in balance with nature, the Native Americans, had some kind of deeper knowledge, and I think they did. I think they really had a very strong, deep understanding of how to live in a way that was sustainable and in a way that was probably just more in balance with what nature is providing. Um, but that doesn't mean that they can tell the future or that they have any insight into things beyond the physical world. I think that's just more wishful thinking. That was more wishful thinking on my part. I know that a lot of Native American people, or original Americans as I call them, because I do believe that they came from, the African continent like the rest of us originally. At least that's what science says, and that could be wrong too, but whatever. But I know a lot of those people, would like to believe they have some kind of mystical connection with, with nature, and like I said, they do have a connection with nature. I just don't know if it's necessarily mystical. I think I don't know. It's any set of beliefs that is not based on science, I think is kind of in some ways a little ridiculous to believe. And that's not to say that I think science is ironclad. There's a lot that science doesn't understand, and there certainly could be a lot beyond what science knows. But science is just about knowing what is possible to be known. And there are times when science makes claims, like I've said in the past, that they can't really support. A lot of scientists, don't like the idea of an afterlife or God, or because they have no evidence for that, and so they just assume that doesn't exist. And I think it's wrong to make those kind of assumptions too. And I think scientists are wrong when they do those kinds of things. But I don't think it's the realm of science to do much pontificating beyond. For real scientists, I don't think make any claims about what happens after you die, or any claims about what the spirit is or anything like that. I think real scientists just sort of go on the information that we have, and they're being unscientific if they make claims about what happens after you die, or anything like that. But at the same time, I think that there's something to be said for practicing real science and only commenting on what you can observe. We don't know if what we observe is the truth either. That's the other part of it, but. That's all we have given to us as human beings. We have, the five senses. I don't believe in a sixth sense. I don't. I don't know. It's we'll see what happens. I mean, there's actually some interesting things going on. There's a doctor trying to prove that people kind of exist beyond brain dead states. I'll just go into that real quick. He's, he apparently is trying to put things, they have, this guy is an emergency room doctor who deals with a lot of patients who are, who die temporarily and come back, or they meet the definition of clinically dead. And so he's posting words and things above where everyone can see them. And, asking people who have died and come back, if they've had an out-of-body experience, can they read these things that would otherwise have been inaccessible, to anybody? And so far, that's a study I guess he's doing now. There's people who claim that that's kind of a flawed study, because they say that, anybody who works at the hospital, if they wanted to mess with the results, could climb up, see the word, and tell the patients, and then, just so that, people can get the idea of a soul as a sort of a, proselytizing propaganda type of thing. But we'll see. I think we should at least see what the results say, and we'll see. If anybody can read these words that aren't visible to them as they're lying on their deathbed. But anyway, yeah, it seems unlikely that they. It's. I was on my way to, as I was going through these health issues, and I'm still kind of going through health issues, I don't know exactly what's wrong. I woke up this morning with a lot of pain in my lower right side, kind of, well, not lower right, middle right, kind of where my liver is. So I hope I'm not still dying, but I don't have colon cancer, and I don't have esophageal cancer or stomach cancer or duodenal cancer, which is all good. And my liver function tests are normal. But anyway, but during this time, I was kind of panicking about dying because I was having a lot of pain, and I'm still having some pain, not as much as I was before. And I wanted to turn to religion. I wanted to turn to Christianity because I always thought that Jesus had a lot of good lessons to teach. And I kind of turned there Christianity also because I had a friend who was kind of, sort of proselytizing to me, trying to get me to head over in that direction a little bit. To, wanted me to find God and all that, and be, born again. So, I kind of, I've been dabbling with it. I started reading the Bible a little bit, mostly just the New Testament. So I kind of wanted to start right with the, Jesus's, heavy-hitting material. And, it's not that I don't think that, I still do think that there's a lot of great lessons in there. I think that regardless of whether or not Jesus did exist, or, God does exist, or the God that we like to think of exists. And regardless of that, I think if you live your life by, the principles in that, is it Mark, I guess, and of course the Ten Commandments, that you will be a better person, and the world will be a better place, no doubt. But, certainly if there was going to be a set of rules to live by, those would be, I think, rules that, they're not going to make for a particularly, you're going to miss out on a lot if you live by the rules of the Bible. Because, you can't sleep with anybody before you get married. That's a major part of modern life for most people, not for me, but for most people. You can't even, it's like you can't even look at another man's wife with lust in your mind, I don't see really why that's so terrible. As long as you don't act on that impulse, as long as you don't actually try to steal somebody away from their wife. Steal a woman away from their husband, or a man away from their wife. I don't see, what's wrong with, admiring. It's like, there's a difference between saying, oh man, my buddy's wife is gorgeous, I wish I could have ended up with, I wish I could be with her instead, and actually trying to, drive a wedge between your friend and his wife, and sort of, actively trying to take her away. So I don't see, and it's just kind of like, some of these things like that, it's like there's this, when it comes to victimless crimes, I think it's a victimless crime to lust after your, neighbor's wife, as long as you don't do anything to actually, make that come to fruition. I don't see how, and this is the thing about the Bible that I struggle with. It's this sort of absolutism that exists. I do believe that humans are inherently evil at this point. That seems pretty obvious, which is disappointing. There's a lot of things about it, and maybe Jesus, the idea is Jesus is putting sort of a perfect version of your behavior out there as something to strive for, But I feel like there's just a lot of things. There's a lot of things that I struggle with, The idea that anybody can be forgiven for their sins, which basically gives people license to sin all they want and then just ask for forgiveness and everything's cool. It's kind of like, how does that really, affect people's behavior in a good way long term? If you can do whatever you want and ask for forgiveness in the end, and then, what real incentive do you have to, live an upright life? you know, when it doesn't really seem to matter. When everything you do can be forgiven, you know, it's just like I thought the whole point of religion was to help you live learn how to live an upstanding life. But I don't see how that can be the case when you have so many people who, believe in Christianity, who sin all the time and just say, oh, it's okay, I can sin as long as I just ask for forgiveness, you know. And the other part I have, the major difficulty I have with the Bible is just sort of this acceptance of your, you know, acceptance of your place in the world. If you're weak, your reward is in heaven, that kind of thing. I'm a man of reason generally, and there's no proof of life after death. There's no proof of the soul. All these things could exist, but there's absolutely no proof of this. And when you start talking about waiting for your reward after this life, I mean, that is a huge risk you're taking, because it means, allow yourself to be meek, allow other people, because when you're meek, people take advantage of you, and being taken advantage of in this life, can make for a miserable life, there's this sort of justification for the suffering that the faithful go through. They say if you're faithful to God, you will suffer. People will, put you through even more suffering. And the idea is that, people are made to suffer so that they have to turn to God, and then they can glory in God and pass on the greatness of God's name, throughout the world. But, for one, I feel like it's, I don't feel like it's being very considerate of other people to preach your religion as the one true religion. Other people have other religions, and it just seems kind of rude to me to go about telling everyone, "Oh, you're wrong. Stop being a Muslim. Stop being Hindu. Stop being Buddhist and follow my God, because this is the only true God, and you have to do what's right, which is to follow Jesus Christ." I mean, and otherwise you're gonna, you'll go to hell, or not go to hell, but you will have your soul won't live on to, you'll be obliterated by the glory of Jesus, or whatever the heck, I mean, it's just so, again, it just comes down to this sort of absolutism, that, it just seems like kind of a closed-minded outlook on reality. It doesn't allow for other people's opinions. It doesn't allow for other religions. It doesn't allow people who are good people to ascend to heaven without accepting Jesus. And I cannot see how that's a just set of beliefs. I cannot see how people who are good people, like my mother is a saint, I mean, she has her faults, don't get me wrong, she lives a modern lifestyle, she's a first worlder, she's causing the destruction, helping to cause the destruction on this planet the same way I am, but, she has such a good heart, and she's done so much volunteering, and everybody who knows her loves her and wants to see her protected, maybe she's too much of a pushover in some ways. I wish she would stand up for herself more, and all she knows how to do is give to other people. And that's part of the reason why I think I've struggled in life. She's given me too much. She should have been a lot harder on me. And maybe I'm a little spoiled. But she's actively angry she was raised a Catholic, and she's angry at the Catholic Church because she's become a feminist. She doesn't like the patriarchy. There's a lot of patriarchy in religion. Women, from a lot of sectors, especially Catholicism, can't be priests, and there's a certain place for women in the book, and she's a staunch feminist. So it's like, to think that because of her, and she's become anti-Christian. Because she sees it as a source of a lot of conflict and death throughout history, and she doesn't believe it really comes from God necessarily. She just thinks it's a bunch of things that that some men wrote, to try to manipulate people. And that a lot of Christians would say, well, she's going to hell. A lot of Catholics would say, well, she's going to hell. But if you knew my mother, you would know that she doesn't deserve to go to hell. And that, I think, is the real problem I have with the Bible, and with Christianity, is it kind of ignores, um, it ignores, it puts faith above every other aspect of being a good person, and what it takes to be a good person. It makes faith more important than the actions you take in life, and that's wrong. Being a good person is about what you do, not what you believe, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, it's also about what you believe, but being a good person is not believing in some, um, what I believe could be just an arbitrary concept of God. And the other question I really have is, like my mother says, how are we to know that this book wasn't totally fabricated? Who's to say that this book is the Word of God? I mean, it's so old. Um, what proof is there? Scientifically, there's no real, validation that that any of this stuff happened, or that it happened the way it's being said, and so many things that really do happen that may have been good things. I bet you, I'm sure Jesus was a wonderful human being. I don't think he would be remembered and talked about if he wasn't the saint that he's portrayed as. And who knows, he may not even have been as perfect as the book makes him out to be. I mean, I'm not going to say he was or wasn't. Maybe there's a chance that exists. I don't want to go to, if the book is right, I don't want to go to hell. We're still trying to CYA here, but I mean, Jesus didn't write the book himself. Other people wrote the book. And who knows if the people that even claim to be writing each part of the book actually wrote the book. There may be other people, putting their name saying, oh, well, was Paul really Paul? Was it somebody else? Were the disciples really the disciples? Or somebody else? I mean, it's just like, there's no standard of proof here. There's no DNA testing there's no original. It might have been some original. I know that there's the kind of the shrouded Turin. They could have DNA tested that and things like that. But it's kind of like, I don't know. That's it's getting into the weeds. But obviously, there's no hard proof that Christianity is that the Bible is written by God. I don't see how you can anyone could prove that. And so it becomes a matter of faith. And how does it make sense to have faith in something that was created by man? I mean, the Bible is a physical product. I mean, you could say that the words were inspired by God, and they may have been, but who's to say that the people writing it down, even if the Bible was inspired by God, who's to say that 100% of it is inspired by God? What if some of it was gotten right and people filled in the rest, over the years? I mean, it's just, I know, that might seem kind of blasphemous, but it's just kind of like, I mean, it doesn't change the fact that there's a lot of great lessons in there. Don't get me wrong, and far be it from me to say that I think I know better than God. I have a lot of gratitude for this life. I realize that I've created a lot of, I feel like I've had a lot of people commenting on my page. They're probably like me. They had a tough go in life. Tougher than some people, I guess. And they're angry and frustrated and maybe suicidal even. Some of the people who have contacted me have serious mental problems. I've been contacted by people who, I've seen their videos on YouTube, and they obviously have violent fantasies that they turn into animations or other things. And, I just want all these people to know that, yeah, we don't have it the best. There's people who have it a lot better than we do, Certainly nobody wants to, like me, be a 39-year-old virgin, soon to be turning 40. It's not considered the ideal path in life, and I'm sure a lot of people who would be in my situation would want to kill themselves. They think that there was nothing to live for if they had gotten laid at this point in life. But I want people to know that I think it's important that you appreciate the life that you have, and that you um, you know it is. I know it's cliche, but you have to realize that to exist is. I think I've changed my mind on this. In the past, I didn't think this way, but facing death a couple of times, I realized, I mean, life. Yeah, there's ups and downs in life, and when you're in the downs, you want to end it. You want it to be over. You're depressed and pissed and all that. And when you're up, there's great things to appreciate about life. And just being able to have the experience of going up and down. Despite all the injustice, um, despite the struggles and despite the failed expectations, the dreams that don't come true, all those kind of things, you have to realize that there's good things to be enjoyed, and I think you have to be grateful on some level. I mean, I think most people, when they approach death, they begin to realize, just how valuable their life is, and a lot of people, I've heard this story from a lot of people who especially who died young, or died what they feel like is before their time, or even people who haven't died before their time. But I think by the time you get to the end of your life, you're going to want more. That seems to be a recurrent theme with most people, and that's how I felt when I thought I was dying. I wanted more time. As lackluster as it's been, as much frustration as I've endured, I want more. And maybe that's greedy. Maybe I should be okay with dying. I'm sure the Buddhists would say you should just be, accept what is. But I think you'll see when you get there. When you feel like you're getting to the end, I can almost guarantee you're going to want more time. You're going to want to do things that you didn't get a chance to do, and you're never going to get to do everything you want to do. At some point, you're going to get there, and you'll realize all the things you missed out on. It'll be heartbreaking. I've always wanted to learn how to be a drummer. I don't know if I'm ever going to do that. I'm spending all my time learning web development right now, which is actually kind of interesting. I'm sort of enjoying it, even though I know it's, sort of continuing down the path of self-destruction. There's not a lot I can do to save the world as a web developer, I don't think. I mean, I could try to work for a nonprofit, but anyway. Yeah, we'll try to do that, but I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, so I'm spending so much time on web development that I may never learn how to play the drums, which is sad to me. Hopefully I'll get there. I'm at an age where it doesn't really matter, other than for your own enjoyment, to play for other people. Nobody really wants to see people beyond a certain age playing music, unless they're friends and family and just want to have a reason to go out and do things. Some people enjoy it, but for the most part, unless you're these days, it seems like people don't like to go out and see music by people they know. But regardless of that, I'd like to learn how to play the drums. It'd be fun. It's fun playing the drums. Is fun playing with fun drums with other people is fun. It's kind of cathartic. Um, I've played some amateur drums with people, but I've never really developed my skills, and I hope I get a chance to do that someday. But that's one of those types of things that when you approach death, you'll think about. Oh, I wish I'd learned to play the drums. Oh, I wish I'd learned. I wish I'd seen the Northern Lights. I wish I'd gone to, the fjords in Norway, or I wish I'd, listened to a song I'd never heard before. Um, I wish I'd tried that food that I just found out about. There's so many experiences that are worthwhile, in life, and no matter how hard you've had it, I want my followers, or not my followers, but people who occasionally watch my video. I don't think I have a follower in particular. Um, I want you people to know that try to appreciate life. Don't be like I was for so many years. I was really a selfish asshole. I was too spoiled. I expect too much from the world, and I still do. I'm not trying to act like I'm some enlightened figure now and I've got it all figured out, and I'm okay with my place in life. I still, I still yearn for things that I can't have, and I'm still not as grateful probably as I should be. I still don't appreciate the little things as much as I should, even though I try to. But yeah, just try to realize that there are good things in life. Don't be so down. Don't always look at the negative. I know that's hard to do. There's a lot of negative to look at now, and certainly there's a lot of reason for dismay with coronavirus and global warming, and the still approaching what's it called, peak oil, which seems like it's a long way away right now because oil prices are as low as they've been in a long time. But it's one of these days it's going to get here. One of these days they're going to have to ramp up alternative energy pretty damn quick, and who knows if they'll still be able to do it. I still think it's coming, but we're not quite there yet. I don't know how we've avoided it to this point. But in spite of all those huge problems, and in spite of the fact that the end of civilization could be extremely ugly, and in spite of the fact that we're living in a way that is probably dooming us to extinction sooner than maybe we could have, sooner than it might have happened if we'd lived in a more balanced way with nature. I think it still doesn't hurt to be grateful. It doesn't hurt to be grateful for the little things, And it doesn't hurt to try to appreciate your surroundings. And, if there is a God, and I'm still inclined to believe that there is, you should be grateful. You should be grateful that you've had the opportunity to live. Unless your life is truly miserable. And, if your life is really just one series of disasters after another and you just can't seem to find any break, I guess you're allowed to feel however you want, really. But, if you're like me, in my case, for me personally, I've had a lot of hard things in life, and certainly a lot of people, wouldn't envy my position in life, but I still always find a lot of things, a lot of things to be joyful about, and I think that's important. So anyway, sum up. The Hopi apocalypse prophecy video. I'm not going to delete it because I probably said some other things in there. It's kind of acts as a nice, diary entry in history for me. That's what a lot of these videos are. But I was taken in by some new agey BS, and I'm sorry I repeated it. I'm going to try to be more rational. I am going to appreciate God, and I will try to live by the principles of the Bible that I feel are, are not overly dogmatic. I will try to make sure all my crimes are victimless. I think that's kind of the most important thing, victimless crimes. In my mind, that's true morality. Make sure your crimes are victimless, and put yourself in the. Really, it's really all. I think that's the most important thing is you've got to make sure that that your actions don't hurt people, psychologically or or physically. And put yourself in their place. That golden rule. That is part of the Bible also. Treat others how you want to be treated. In a lot of ways, I don't think humanity. That's another problem I have with the Bible is it kind of the Bible talks about how humans are fallen, and and which I believe, we are fallen. We're flawed, um, species, Homo sapiens, and you're supposed to love your brother, but it's like, why should we love other people who are fallen? We're a disaster on this planet. But at the same time, there's a lot. I interact with a lot of people that have a lot of good in them, um, and I think on some level, there's a lot of some of the worst tendencies of humans are kind of brought out in us by the society we live in, and I feel like humans are capable of more than this. I just don't know if they're capable of living sustainably with nature at this point. The ship may have sailed, and we may be destroyed for that. But regardless of all that, um, yeah, I'd say I trust in reason first, and after that, I have my beliefs, and I'm not going to believe in a dogmatic view of the Bible. I'm not going to take everything word for word, which some people would say is blasphemous, not listening to the exact word. But again, how do we know that the words in the Bible are 100% the words of God? Unless if somebody wants to point me to some proof that the words in the Bible are God's words, I don't know how you would even prove that. God doesn't exist in the physical realm. There's no video of Christ raising people from the dead or turning water into wine, So, I don't really know how you're supposed to prove those things. But, maybe my idea is that if they took DNA from the Shroud of Turin, that it would, there would be something magical about the DNA because, obviously, if it was the Virgin Mary and God's sort of combined thing, then either the DNA from Jesus would be just the Virgin Mary's DNA, and then maybe some magical glowing strands of some unrecognizable substance. I don't know. The idea of it is so ridiculously beyond science that it just seems impossible to me. But and maybe that would be God's plan, is that it would be beyond science to tell, but that gets into the whole faith side of it again. But anyway, so yeah, I think there's some question about the validity of the idea that 100% of the Bible is divinely inspired. There's just no way of knowing that, and that might sound like a cop out, an excuse for me to continue with behaviors that are harming me or harming other people. What I'd say to that is, I am sorry. I'm sorry I'm not a better person. I'm sorry I'm not perfect, I don't see why it matters whether I specifically talk to Jesus or just talk to God in general and say, "Dear God, forgive me for not being perfect." I think it doesn't hurt to ask for forgiveness from God, even if there's nobody listening. It's important to know that you're not perfect. It's important to know that you're not. For a long time I thought I was better than other people, and one of the best things about reading the Bible is it's forced me to realize that I'm as flawed as a lot of the people I used to judge. I think that part of the Bible is accurate. Judge not, lest you be judged. That is that's something that hits home, and you realize, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't be. I'm not. I mean, I have strong opinions. Don't get me wrong. I certainly judge anybody who doesn't care about nature and the environment harshly. But at the same time, I have to come. You have to realize your own limitations. I mean, I'm part of the problem. I'm destroying the environment. I'm living a first world lifestyle. Until until you're living perfectly, until you're living up to your ideals 100%, and to the ideals of what potentially might be a higher power, you're better than most other people. So yeah, it's I guess that's I don't know why this is sort of just jumbled into me. I don't really have a really coherent. This is another one of most of my videos are rambling. What's it called? Stream of consciousness type of things. And this is no exception as usual. But basically, mostly I wanted to. This is just basically addressing the stupidity of believing in New Agey crap that was attributed to the Hopis and a general analysis of my take on Christianity. I've actually even thought about doing, Bible study kind of as a sort of a, you know, I'm almost thinking about doing a whole channel where I just read the Bible and kind of, give my take, without being, dogmatic and totally, a gung-ho proselytizer about it, but while also, not being somebody who's trying to explicitly, call into question anything that would seem inconsistent, I thought it would be nice to have the approach of somebody who wants to be good and has some amount of faith, but isn't as as draconian as some of the language in the Bible would have you believe, or like someone like a like a hardcore priest or something like that. I just thought I might kind of give my own take on it, but I don't know if I'm going to do that or not. I might, I feel like there's a lot of good things to learn from the Bible. And it's good to know for the sake of jeopardy for me, because I ask a lot of questions about the Bible. But I think there's a lot of good principles. I may do that, but anyway, so yeah. Forget what I said about the Hopi apocalypse prophecy A and B. I'll see about doing more stuff on the Bible. I have complex kind of opinions on it. Obviously I go back and forth, but maybe I'll talk more about that in the future. We'll see. If anyone encourages me to do that, I will. If they don't encourage me to do that, I might do it anyway, but I'll be probably less likely to do it if nobody thinks it's a good idea. All right, 42 minutes, way too long. Hope you have a good night. Love y'all. No, I don't actually. Okay, I'm gonna say that. Let me just say that I love the good ones. I know you're supposed to love your enemy, but if you're out there and you're a good one and you know who you are, I love you. You're a great person. Keep on keeping on and keep your head up. Stay strong. Appreciate what the good things are in life. There's more than you realize, I guess.